Did you find yourself taking a flamethrower to throngs of zombie Chads and Brads to protect a house full of sorority girls from taking a throatful of alien slug alongside your date to the formal? Was that sorority full of comely young women regularly clad in nighties or sporadically shown gratuitously nude for horned-up boys of the 1980s? Were you also along for most of this genre trope pastiche-palooza with Blake Lively's oldest brother and his wise-ass becrutched friend who's discarded, after which Rusty number 2 teams up with a wizened old detective who's battling some demons? If so, you might have just found yourself in the Unkind Rewind, where we just watched the Fred Dekker 1986 genre mashup, Night of the Creeps. Unkind Rewind. Get to the chopper!
You know what you are? You're one of those little fancy lads, aren't you?
Link and I are cruising the mountain, bro, and we figure we'd some little juice.
Hello, I'm Josh Dugan, coming to you from the state with the newest flag, where we did not have a white Christmas. As always, I'm joined by my Munch My Benson co-host, Adam Schwitters, hailing from the land of enchantment. Been avoiding escaped axe murderers on Route 66, Adam?
Always. In fact, we kind of had a white Christmas. We could see white from our window on Christmas, and we went up and had a snowball fight on the mountain a couple days ago. So that was something.
So those peaks were covered in white?
Oh yeah, so to speak.
Right on. And fresh back from a sojourn to Atlanta, which proved to interfere with our recording for reasons that we've not yet figured out, is Sean, who's back in New York.
Hey, I did have sort of a white post-Christmas, being that I was visiting family who is represented by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Really?
Wow. Yes, that is
quite
their
a district.
So, yeah, quite a white Christmas down there.
Yeah, I bet. She did choose her voters, right?
Yeah, quite an insurgent New Year.
Yeah, I bet. This week we are joined by our special guest, who is revisiting this film for the first time in ages, coming to us from Los Angeles.
Yes.
Leon Henderson Jr. Leon, why don't you tell the audience who didn't get a chance to tune in last week a little bit about yourself?
Well, I actually really enjoyed this film.
Nice.
It's not much about me. I'm pretty boring. I didn't have a white Christmas because it didn't snow out here. So,
in Los Angeles?
Shockingly.
Weird. Shockingly, there was no snow. There's a lot of white people, but there was no snow.
Sure. Uh-huh.
So, other than that was as white as my Christmas got. Santa had his cargo shorts on and his Birkenstocks, and that was about it.
Okay.
Pretty much. It was fun.
Right on.
It was fun.
So we watched Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
Now, when Leon submitted his list, I don't know about Adam or Sean, but I'd never fucking heard of this movie. Sean, were you familiar with this?
I had not seen it. I had not heard of it. And I imagine I would have gone my entire life having not any idea that this movie existed.
Okay.
I know a lot of movies.
Uh-huh.
The 4 words of this title have never been put together in my mind ever.
Sure. I honestly thought for a second maybe it was Night of the Comet.
Yeah, which I've seen somewhat recently, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I've seen it at least twice in the last decade. Now, Adam, had you seen this growing up?
So the name rang no bells, but the first scene, the alien sequence, was very, very familiar to me. So I feel like I've seen part of it, like way back in the day on late night TV or something like that, and then just didn't follow through with it. Got bored, didn't register that was my favorite Rusty, and just kept going,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never seen the slug stuff. I'd never seen, the shower sequence. It would have stuck out in my mind had I seen it when I was like 15 years old or younger. But no, it did not. But I'm glad I saw it now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It did tickle my fancy.
The weird nude aliens didn't keep you engaged? Or was it just their disappearance that...
It probably went to commercials, and I switched over to
okay.
Conan or something like that. I don't remember, but something like that.
Conan the Barbarian or Conan the...
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, if there were sort of persistent uses of the naked alien things, then I can imagine Adam staying on, being more engaged.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're written off pretty quickly.
It is Adam's King.
I mean, they're kind of awesome. I love those guys, and I really could have used more than 5 minutes of screen time with them.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know more about their society. I was like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like, well, why are they breeding these weird slugs?
Why are you guys fighting with each other? Like,
Seriously.
like, why are they running away?
Yeah. You're all
I
on the
also
same
wanted
ship.
to
What's
know
going
that.
on here?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening here right now?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Profound
wanting to know,
statement.
too.
I think there was like a TOS Star Trek about that. You know, when there's like the guys that are half white and half black, but they're opposite.
Yeah.
And the Star Trek guys are like, "Why are you fighting? You look exactly the same." And it's like, well, that's deep, man.
It's funny that you bring up TOS Star Trek because the ship is actually used in DS9.
It is used in DS9.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I was trying to rack my brain remembering which episode that was to no avail.
I used to watch it every Sunday night.
DS9 is a great show.
Yeah.
It's the best one, I think, by far.
You haven't watched Strange New Worlds.
DS9's really good.
I want to watch that one, though.
Strange New
I
Worlds
do
is
want
really
to
good.
watch that one.
Dude, Hawk from Spencer for Hire
Spencer for Hire.
travels through time in like
Avery
6
Brooks
different
is the
directions.
shit. I get it.
Yeah.
Avery Brooks.
Okay. So, for listeners who are new to the show, we do a pre-interview with our guests. So, did a pre-interview with Leon. So, we're going to revisit some of the questions we asked. So, in this clip, we asked Leon what he loosely remembered the plot of the film being.
It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets Dawn of the Dead type. Like it's 80s completely, and I loved 80s movies. In the beginning, it's this alien ship, and there's like these doofy looking aliens, like I don't know, this weird prosthetics,
Sure. Yeah.
and they basically drop some kind of waste or something out of the ship. It lands on the planet. And it's kind of like a high school love story in a sense, you know, like
Okay.
the nerd trying to get the girl.
Sure.
So like some guy in the field finds this thing, and it's these little slithery creatures,
Okay.
and they kind of like take over the town, and it's like prom night. See,
Okay.
prom night or like homecoming night.
Do they snatch people by going up their holes?
Yeah, they get in their mouths. There's like a cryogenic scene
Okay.
where I think it gets in somebody and they get frozen. Like when you see it, it'll remind you of all the campy 80s
Sure.
horror sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like just a alien takeover movie with kind of like the Revenge of the Nerds type vibe with, you know, the guy trying to get this girl.
Sure.
And I think it's not high school. I think it's college.
Okay.
I want to say. And I think the girl is in a sorority. There's like some kind of party, either some kind of
Right. Homecoming or some
sorority
shit.
party. Yeah, something like that. I think that's the build up to the end, and then he like becomes like a hero, and you know. None of that was true.
I mean,
Most of it was true.
I honestly think you remembered the thrust pretty well. Are you surprised by how well you remembered? And to be fair, the plot is kind of a grab bag of different plots.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by how well you remembered it?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I remember watching it like all the time. Like, I don't know why. I don't even know why I was watching it for one reason. I mean,
I don't know how you found it.
Did you own this, Leon? Did you own this? Was this in the library at home?
No, they used to just play it on TV. Like I told Josh before, my dad was a huge television and like horror movie buff. So when I was a kid, we used to always go rent movies from the video store. And he would always have like these random ass movies about just anything. Like I remember watching Maniac Cop when I was a kid.
Nice.
I remember watching like I said, I had Basket Case on there, like all these weird movies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should not be watching it. I'm 9 years old, 10 years old. But he would rent them, and then we had them for like 6 days. So, you know, I would go get them, and then we had cable too. So he was big on like movies. I remember telling people, even at school, I had cable. They were like, "You got cable?" And it blew people's minds. We didn't have a lot of money.
This is in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, it was in St. Louis. And like, we weren't like rich or anything like that. We just had cable. And it was like kind of starting days when, HBO was big and then just like the basic cable where you had like Turner and all that.
And the Superstation.
Yeah, they would play these movies in the late 80s, early 90s all the time. Like over and over and over and over again. Like all those movies on my list, I literally watched those all the time because they were just on.
Sure.
So I remember them like vividly.
So when you were watching these movies with your dad, was it at the same time, or is it like after he had watched it, you got a chance before the movies went back to the video store?
I want to say half and half. I think when I got older, I watched a few of them with him, or he'd be watching it and I might go downstairs and he's watching. I like sit and watch, and my mom's just like, "What are you watching this for?" So I don't know. I was just fascinated. Like I liked weird horror and like sci-fi horror. I was never like a fan of like slasher. Unless it was like super campy. If it was super campy, I would watch it because all the Friday the 13th movies.
Like Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. This dude is walking. I can't escape this guy that's walking away. He's coming to kill you and you walking. He's walking towards you and you like, I don't know where to go. It's like, he's walking. He just
the other direction.
Run the other way.
Just faster.
But you have to keep falling down and looking back at him, right? I mean, that's the only way you can go away.
So were there any story elements that you were surprised by on rewatch? Anything you'd completely forgotten that was in there?
The end, I totally forgot about.
Well, I guess I'll hit it now. There are two endings.
Yeah.
This was the director's cut ending.
Oh.
The ending that you would have watched as a kid was probably her going up to the dog and like a slug coming out of the mouth of the dog.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was the original theatrical cut.
That is right.
The same dog that got Brad?
Yeah.
Is her? Okay.
Yeah, so that is why you don't remember the ending.
Because I do remember that ending, and because when I saw this one, I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember.
Or the spaceship comcoming back in over the cemetery.
I don't remember that.
Shit, yeah,
I don't remember him coming back and them going to the cemetery. I was like, wait a minute, this is not. Because when I watched it, I rewatched the part, and I said, wait, did I miss something?
Right.
And I rewound it, and I saw that because I do remember as a kid or like younger, I remember. And they cut to black after, like the dog comes and shows her and all that.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense for the sort of like horror trope,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Set up the sequel.
Yep.
Yeah. That never came. that never came about.
So were the aliens on the ship as doofy looking as you remembered?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was looking at I think I looked at IMDb or something, or like just on Google, and like the cast, and I think there was a guy that was cast as an alien, and they're supposed to have like prosthetics and stuff on, but the guy looked like one of the aliens without anything on there. So I'm thinking like, did they just show this man?
They just greased him down and fucking put like some patch over his crack.
A big head on him.
Yeah, and I don't know. It weirded me out because I'm like, does this person really look like this, or was this an actual prosthetic alien? I don't know, but I do remember that.
One thing that was really cool early on in the movie were the subtitles for the alien language.
Yeah, I know.
Just these ancient runes that we're supposed to understand.
I was really confused. I thought my computer was screwed up when I was
I understood what they were saying.
I know what they were. I mean, obviously that's a funny joke. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
But boy, did that they started strong with a good joke there because that's pretty clever. In sort of a campy 80s, whatever the hell mashup movie this is.
Yeah, because it was totally mashup. Like, you had all different types of jokes and genres. And
there's so many references in it. I mean, it's like reference after reference.
Yeah.
They're watching Plan 9 from outer space and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, Leon, was it surprising to you how many different kinds of genre films were smashed together when you rewatched this? Like, had you forgotten how fully, like, genre referential this was?
Somewhat, because I was surprised I remembered so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I basically had, like, an outline of what I remembered.
Sure.
But there was, like, small stuff I kind of forgot. But then every time a scene came up, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this part. And then it goes into, whatever's going on.
Sure.
But, it was just, like you said, like, reference after reference, joke after joke. but it was in that 80s mode where it can be like super over the top or like 80s was never subtle. So, there was no like subtle moments, you know?
Yeah.
I think they try to be at times, but it wasn't like a subtle thing. And I think it's probably why I enjoyed stuff so much because I didn't care. You know, weren't worried about offending anybody or whatever.
Earlier when you were saying you like camp, I was like, well, there's a movie that you should probably know about called Night of the Creeps. Has a lot of that.
So we asked how old you were when you saw this for the first time. You thought you were probably 9 or 10 and recalled that you thought it was probably rated R. Yeah. This was obviously rated R, but it's not like a crazy hard R or anything.
Nah.
Looking back, did you have any, like, I shouldn't have seen this at that age, or was it relatively tame?
Not really, because it wasn't, I mean, it had its violence.
Uh-huh. And it had passing nudity, but it was nothing sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like 80s. So, you know, and all of us, you know, we watched a lot of 80s movies. That was kind of like the shtick for 80s movies. Like if it was a...
Yeah, we're all pretty much the same age. Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what type of genre it was. It was the same, like, oh, you're going to have some nudity, or you're going to have like a goofball, and you're going to have like a jock, and you're going to have the same kind of trope or like character in each movie, no matter what, if it's a horror, sci-fi, if it's a comedy, and then it was always like a mashup of when the comedies came out, it was always some other element. It was like, you know, horror comedy or just straight goofy comedy or, you know, whatever.
Or like veer into super dramatic teen elements comedies, you know?
Yeah. Like the teen comedy, like teen stuff was like huge back in, you know, mid to late 80s. So
did anything scare you about this when you were a kid? Like there were a couple scenes, even with the effects they had being somewhat limited. Did anything kind of mess you up as a kid, or did you just have fun with it start to finish?
I was a big like animal person too. So I love like, you know, biology and all that. So I remember when I saw like the slugs and stuff. Sometimes when I was younger, I would like look on the ground for stuff like, you know, just in case this was real. Like slugs going by. I'm like, slugs don't move that fast. Like, what is this? Isn't correct. So I was that kid that, you know, that was always thinking in that capacity. So yeah, that I thought about, you know, but that was it.
But it didn't scare you. This wasn't a scary movie for you.
But only because you weren't seeing fast slugs.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, it was funny, and it didn't really get to me. Now, Pumpkinhead scared me.
Okay, sure.
Pumpkinhead was like, all right, why am I watching this? But
yeah, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, this was like, well, no, I should not be watching this right now.
So we'll throw to clip 2 here in a second, but I asked you what you were like as a kid when you were watching this. So what do you think you were like as a kid when you were watching this movie? Like, you watched this a lot when you were a kid, I assume?
Yeah, every time it came on, I would try to check it out.
Yeah.
I think because I always was into just anything sci-fi, anything space, anything aliens.
Sure.
And then anything like creature involved. Plus, you know, in the 80s, they actually used the prosthetics. The prosthetics, man, I think it saves the movies.
Did this still scratch that sci-fi creature feature itch for you?
Yeah. And like after watching it, because you know, like, you know, when you watch a movie, the beginning, middle, end, when you know how stuff like kind of goes through, it just seemed really fast. Like it seemed like it was like, all right, but I loved how it started with the aliens and it started with the detective's story.
Yeah.
You know, how they kind of like went from that, from the aliens, then goes from that, and then it goes to the present time. I don't know what about it I really enjoyed. It was just, like you said, it was such a mashup of like everything. You know, when the guy comes back and he shoots him and the slugs come out, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. But I'm going to sit here and continue watching it because I'm entertained. So I just had a huge imagination, man.
Sure.
And I didn't. I think my kid just woke up. Oh, awesome. Yeah, that was pretty much how I was when I was younger.
Right on. Did the utilization of prosthetics still work for you in Night of the Creeps?
Yeah, I mean, it was some stuff that was like, all right, come on, this isn't...
Sure.
But
it looks better than bad CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually was surprised how, like, the spaceship scene kind of held up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a good-looking spaceship.
Yeah, seriously.
After 40 years. But,
shooting with models and a fucking flashlight as a spotlight, but whatever.
Yeah.
But it works.
It's crazy how good those ship models look these days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I appreciated that. Like, I was a big Star Wars person, anything space and stuff, like I said. And just the detail you had to have to make that and then pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Just watching it, I'm not going to space. I'm pretty sure I'm never going to go. But I always, dreamed about it, and I always
You just have to befriend Elon Musk. Or Bezos.
Gotta get some Tesla stock, buy a couple Teslas.
Sure. I mean, don't do that. Don't give any money to that fuck. But all right, so I'm gonna throw to clip 3 here in a second. But we were asking if there were any moments that stuck out to you from watching this as a kid.
I remember, I think it was some scenes where, particularly how they get in your body, it's just like an orifice or whatever. I think it got into a dog.
Okay.
Like he ran into a dog, and the dog went around, and then they like spit, like the animal or the person or whatever spits it out into another person, so it's like parasitic in the sense. Mm-hmm. But then I think it gets like it's like a bunch of them, and they kind of it's kind of like the hive mentality with the creatures.
Okay.
It's so weird explaining this.
I'm sure it was. So, were there any ways in which the slugs infected their host that were surprising to you that you didn't recall?
Man, I think it just, I think they get in your brain, like how they explain it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, it gets in your brain and it just sits there and lays eggs. And as a kid, I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. But as the older I got, I'm like, oh, this is really weird.
Where do they fit?
Why was I watching this? Yeah, like where do they fit? Like I don't know. Like I the older you get, the more you're thinking like, why is this actually happening right now? So I don't know what it was about that movie that just kind of like, I want to watch this over and over and over and over again. So it was kind of, I really can't explain it, man. I don't know what it was. I think it's just the science factor. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think, some of the sort of experiment that this podcast is just, at a certain point, some of it's like scratching your head at like, I don't know what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Was the dog pretty much as you remembered?
Yeah.
Okay.
The dog and then like the cat. It was like a cat.
Yeah.
At the sorority house.
Sure.
I forgot about that though. The dog I remembered. Because then like when they get on the bus, it crashes and, and I remember when the bus turned when they're like, don't hit the dog. Uh-huh. Then the bus like exploded. I was like, wait a minute, so everybody died? Like the bus
as buses do.
How fast are you driving down this small residential street?
I mean, what the fuck? Like that bus had to have been doing like 60 miles an hour for that to happen.
Like he turned so fast and it just stopped. And everybody was dead. I'm like, wait a minute. They were going like 20 miles an hour. Like, I don't know.
I love the cut to the bus driver, like, that sort of like skeleton bus driver. That thing. That shot's great.
That bus accident most likely resulted in some type of recall. Like, let's be honest, you cannot slightly turn to the right and have an entire bus flip.
I've never seen those buses, so it clearly did.
Mm-hmm. With respect to the dog and the cat, there was a moment in me where I was kind of hoping at the end, the slugs, as they went through the fence into the cemetery, I thought we were going to pan up to see a sign that said zoo.
Yeah,
okay.
That would be nice.
Or Pet Cemetery.
Cemetery.
But badly spelled.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that could kind of be cool to like get a slug into a giraffe and an elephant.
Sure, yeah.
You could end it there. You could end it with like, that would be the
zombie giraffe. Yeah, that'd be cool.
As the zoo runs.
Yeah, when they got a lot bigger budget to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they were really taxed on a dog and a cat. I don't think they're going to be able to get a rhino. I mean, you could see where they were doing the cuts on sort of the rear of this trained dog, and then the animatronic thing from the front, right?
Yeah,
and like they did a pretty good job. It wasn't bad. Yeah, I mean, I think the cat setup, right? Like that's such a horror trope, is to go to the door
and have the black cat.
Yeah.
Right. There was one thing though I didn't about the bus. Sorry, I didn't get like when it fell over, everybody became zombies. I was like, wait, there was no slugs or anything. They just all became.
I mean, the dog
zombies.
does go into the bus, but it
in.
doesn't seem like it's timely at all.
Yeah.
The slugs move really fast. Okay,
I
don't
guess
worry
that's
about
what it was.
Yeah,
it must have been really close to the sorority house where the slug nest is like feeding on the brains in the basement or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For the next clip, I posed the question as to what your expectations were upon returning to Night of the Creeps, to which you responded. Do you think it will have aged well, or do you think there are going to be problems?
Like, probably not. Because, I mean, a lot of 80s movies and 90s movies, but mostly like 80s.
Yeah.
Because of how the world is now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I can't remember any of the jokes, but I'm just thinking because it's an 80s movie.
Right.
Because it's like right in that middle tier. I think from like 85 to like 90. Even before then, 48 hours, another 48 hours and all that stuff beforehand. But like later on, the mid to late 80s, early 90s, there were so many like just, and it's classics for a lot of people, but it's like, hey, you gonna watch that now? Like, I want to show this to the third grade class. Like, no, probably shouldn't.
Don't do that. Maybe watch it again.
Yeah, have you watched this in 15 years?
So, do you feel like this aged as poorly as you had anticipated with regards to the era from whence it came?
No, I was like kind of surprised.
I was also.
Yeah, because it was shockingly not rapey, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I couldn't remember any of the jokes. I just remember most of the main stuff. But the jokes, the in between jokes, I couldn't remember. The only joke, was when the two main characters, when they were like in the dorm room and they were like,
JC and Chris.
Yeah. And they were talking about when he cursed him out or whatever, and he said, yeah, you wish, or whatever, like about saying, yeah, fuck you. Like, no, fuck you, you wish. And I was like, oh, hey, I don't know if you can say that now.
That was a little homoerotic, right? Like they did have some kind of,
they probably jerked it together.
Yeah.
I mean, their couch beds were very close together.
Yeah, that was extremely close. Like, who sleeps that close?
mean, you do know how, like, most couples make up, right? Yeah, there was something that was unresolved there.
Yeah. Because one of them died too soon to, like, get a load off,
Dude. And what a reason to die for, too. He died so that his friend could
get laid.
Get laid, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's brutal.
Yeah, he was a great friend. He's a great friend.
Get laid with a girl that owns exactly one outfit, plus a prom dress.
And that girl, like, there was very little that fazed her. I believe she's the one that kind of, like, goes to the window when we first get the zombie kind of attacking the sorority.
Yeah.
And she is able to brush that off in a matter of minutes. It is not trauma blanket, talking to a cop, Sarah Connor inside the police station, having just seen something harrowing. Like, she's like completely forgetful of that and unbelievably resilient.
I think she's just compartmentalizing really well.
Yeah.
She's seen Terminator.
But, like, credit. I mean, honestly... Like, strong women for a 1980s horror sci-fi comedy. Usually they're the girl in the whatever 1959 segment.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
Which this was clearly making fun of that.
Unless it's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, that's true.
Did anybody recognize the sorority girl who answered the door to Brad?
I feel like I pulled her, but I can't remember who she is.
When Brad comes to the door as a zombie.
Yeah, and she's just kind of like,
yeah.
Is she the one with the robe on who also grabs Gordon? That one?
No, it's a blonde. She looks like she was in Playboy.
I remember.
Yeah.
So I believe this year or the year prior, she landed a much bigger role as one of the girlfriends in Weird Science.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe young Wyatt ends up with her
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the movie.
Now, see, that's a much rapier film than
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
I did watch that a lot too. I watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Now, were there any moments that you cringed at where you felt like they wouldn't fly today? Other than, you know, the sort of homoerotic joking between roommates?
Not really. Actually, I mean, it kind of was a typical 80s movie, 80s plot, 80, you know, just kind of like was straightforward, just with a bunch of just mashed up. And it kind of was, just, like I said, just straightforward. There was nothing I watched. I was like, oh man, I can't watch this now. Because I could.
Sure.
I think it's just kind of like how it holds up. Since I haven't seen it literally in probably 10 years. Like when I rewatched it this last time, that was probably the first time I watched it in about 10 years. 10 or 11 years. And like, oh, this wasn't terrible. So I could, you know, I don't know if I would like go back and watch it again just over and over like I used to, but there was nothing in particular that kind of made me go like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to show this.
So when you had seen this 10 years ago, 11 years ago, was it something that you intentionally sought out, or did it just come across the TV and you're like, why not?
I think it was on. I think it was on something.
So is this one of those movies that if it's on, if you're in front of it, you're like sitting down for 90 minutes?
Yeah, just because it brought back memories, weird memories. You know, just because I was like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
Because my wife isn't a movie buff at all. Like, she doesn't watch movies. She doesn't watch.
What would she think of this movie?
She'd probably be like, why are we watching this? Like, what is this? What are you doing?
Adam, did you watch this with Megan?
No, I watched this alone.
Okay.
And of course, my 3-year-old came in right as the shower dolly scene was happening. And I was like, Max, get out of here.
No, I think she would watch it with me. I think we could laugh at it together and like watch stuff because she's open to watching that because I've been trying to get her to watch just random stuff. She didn't watch TV as a kid. Like, all I did was watch TV. I still did like other stuff, but I love TV too. So, you know, I probably could mention, hey, sit down and watch this movie. It's really good. Let's
Is this a movie that you would introduce to your children at some point? Like your dad to you?
I don't know, actually. I never thought about it. Because all the other stuff I introduced him to was just like kind of like all the typical.
Sure,
you know,
a little more timeless than this. This is definitely of an era.
Yeah, like we haven't watched like any horror movies or anything like that. I mean, they're really young too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a different time of how we got information. You know, like we actually went to the store to get videos and you pick out stuff because we would get movies and we would get like video games.
Yeah.
So I had video games for the weekend or however long. And then I had the movies and I'm like, oh, I'm done with this. Let me go check this out. Mm-hmm. And my dad knew I had them. He just like, well, you got to finish watching this before I take it back.
Right.
Which was weird in that sense. Like, I shouldn't be watching it. But because of, you know, how he was, he just kind of let us ride with it. Because I guess we were interested in what he was interested in.
Sure.
I think that might have been what it was for the most part.
It's also way different having everything at your fingertips. So then it's like, oh, well, it's just more kid shit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, like I introduced them to all the stuff that I really, you know, enjoy. All the Ninja Turtles, Transformers, He-Man, and all that. But then when you watch some of that stuff, you're like...
Transformers from 1985 or 86?
Oh, yeah.
Like
we watched that movie a million times.
Not the Michael Bay one?
We watched that too, but we started with the original.
The cartoon, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With the Orson Welles.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Open up, damn it! You know.
Well, I wonder what the box for this looked like, because I kind of forget about how big a part of that aspect of getting a movie back in those days was like, you'd walk through the movie store and sometimes it would be like Steve's pick or whatever, the people that worked at the movie store.
It's like a zombie skull head wearing a suit.
Okay.
That's what the cover art is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like it would have done a lot better if it was her with a flamethrower.
Her with the or the negligee. Yeah.
But she was on the cover though, I think, with the flamethrower, wasn't she?
I don't
That was the Italian poster.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the box art for the video store.
Okay, she is on one of them. The one that I had seen was not that cover art at all. But it's also like not prominently featured enough. Like it should be tighter on her probably. Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
But I mean, when I looked at it on, because I tried to look it up on Roku first.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, I can watch it on the big screen, but I had to watch it on my computer because I was like, I'm not paying $4 for this. So I was like, I'll get this for free instead of paying $4.
I mean, it's on archive.org, like.
Yeah, I mean, I got that
with Spanish subtibles.
I saw that. I was like,
so you can confirm. Wait, did she say dress? Yeah. Okay, vestida. Okay, yeah.
But I mean, I did, and that was another thing too, going to the video store and seeing the art.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be something we didn't even heard of. And oh, that looks cool.
Sure.
You pick it out.
Like Hard Bodies or or Jocks.
Joysticks.
Meatballs.
Hot Dog the movie.
Yeah, Meatballs. Hot Dog the movie.
Ghoulies.
Ghoulies. Yeah. Ghoulies was another one, man. I was going to name all those. Ghoulies, Critters.
Adam and I have seen Ghoulies pretty recently.
Yeah. You're stepping all over my segment, Leon. That's
No, it's fine.
Almost put Troll on there too.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, yeah. J.K. Rowling ripping more shit off.
Uh-huh.
Fucking, we already did Labyrinth, which she's stealing Hogwarts from. But the kid in fucking Troll is Harry Potter.
That's ridiculous.
Oh.
The kid's fucking name in Troll is Harry Potter. Straight up. She's a fucking
that
thief.
That first one freaked me out.
In addition to being a turf.
The first Troll freaked me out. The second one, I couldn't stop laughing.
Troll 2 is
Troll
way
2 is
better.
One of the worst movies ever made.
One of the best movies ever made, Adam.
Yeah.
First Troll, I was like, man, I don't ever want to leave my house. The second one, I was like, this is hilarious. I think I watched it with my brother and my dad. We would sit there and just bug the fuck up just because. This is ridiculous.
I think we need to make sure that we talk about Troll in every single episode that we do, but never watch it.
Never watch it. We do not need to do that to ourselves.
Okay, so Leon, you said that you thought you'd probably still like Night of the Creeps when you rewatched it. Did you feel like it was as good as you remembered it being?
Yeah, for the most part. Because I still remembered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, whenever a scene came up, I was like, oh, yeah, this is coming. But I didn't remember exactly what was going to happen with some stuff. But the only thing that I was surprised about was just the ending. Because I didn't remember that particular ending because of the cut I watched. But other than that, it was still oh, yeah, this is pretty much how I remember.
Okay. So got one more clip to throw to. As we went on, you spoke to judging a movie for what it was and what it was trying to be in its time.
With Night of the Creeps, seeing it today, I think I'll still enjoy it. Because I don't let...
You're able to look at it in the time?
Yeah, I don't let outside noise, hey, look, if you enjoy this for what it is, then you do it. As opposed to the Toxic Avenger. I was gonna put that on the list. I loved watching that. I watched that all the time.
We did Romeo and Juliet for movie club too.
They're terrible, but they're great. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those movies at that time were politically incorrect.
Oh yeah. A trauma film was politically incorrect.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, yeah. It's intentionally transgressive.
Yeah, so you kind of have to just enjoy stuff for what it is as opposed to I'm going to put this label on it and then I'm going to call my representative to...
Right. You going to call your representative?
I'm going to call the congressman. Yeah. Hey, this is...
But seriously, was there anything where you questioned Fred Decker's intent, that writer-director?
No.
Okay.
There's literally no I don't think there's any like 80s movies I've watched where I'm like, I will never watch this again. Honestly, I know they're out there.
Yeah.
But like everything I've watched, pretty much, you kind of know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nothing that, I was like super offended by or, anything like that. The funny thing was there was like one black guy in the movie and he was in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was also the boss.
And he looked like he did not belong there, too. The guy in the background.
Yeah, the background, yeah.
He was like 30 years old and he had like...
he had a sweater on. Like, and the cops, there was two cops. There was two black cops, but that was it.
You had a lieutenant, and then you had kind of a squandered opportunity with the Japanese janitor.
Oh,
and his line that he kept repeating.
Yeah. Screaming like a banshee or...
Screaming like a banshee, yeah.
Like
He
a
just
banshee.
kept saying it over.
Really
SAG card. He hadn't said anything
he
else.
got his card. That's
He got
awesome.
his SAG card.
I mean, Sean knows how long that can take.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
You got to keep it, too. You got to pay those dues.
I know. Got to pay those dues.
I forgot about the janitor, too. That was the one thing I forgot, too. The Japanese janitor.
So I think we're done with the follow-ups on the pre-interview. Sean, we do not know what your segment is because it is not in the spreadsheet. So surprise us.
I mean, once again...
sorry. Thrill me.
Once again, I could posit that the 80s was the strongest decade.
You sure?
Dude.
For little people actors.
Little actors. I was thinking the exact same thing during
because he
the
did this for
beginning.
Labyrinth. So this was his segment for Labyrinth, was that the 80s were peak little people acting.
I mean, you had 3 here minimum.
They didn't really have speaking roles, but they were listed.
They
Well, they were
credits.
subtitled.
They communicated. Yeah. I mean, I would love to kind of talk about young, sexy David Paymer.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
He was Nips Out on a Gurney, wasn't he?
yeah, we saw.
Academy
Was he just
Award
nominated?
nominee
Okay, just nominated. He
David
didn't win,
Paymer
right?
nips out on a gurney for Mr. Saturday Night.
Ooh.
I mean, one of the most recurrent character actors of the 90s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, full bare calves at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
I guess my thing is about the sidekick. And
JC.
Yeah.
was it JV? What is it?
JC.
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 Yeah.
JCVD?
My JCVD.
Not quite.
Yeah.
The first thing that I want to bring up is how much better.
Jean-Claude Van Disabled?
God. I don't even know if JVCD was a household name by the time this movie came out. I think we needed to go an extra year for Kickboxer.
Wasn't Bloodsport out at this point, or
I think
was that
Kickboxer was
later?
87. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's.
Wow.
He might have been filming Predator in the jungles before he got fired.
What about Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo?
Breaking
That's
2.
a good point. Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo is definitely out by the time this comes out.
It definitely
Well,
was.
the first thing I want to talk about with JVCD is how he was like a better fit for our love interest.
Absolutely.
100%.
He is doing all the,
Uh-huh.
pardon the pun, all the legwork.
He's got the charm. He's got charm for days.
No, Adam, you're right.
Yeah.
He's very charming.
Yes.
He's very funny. He bamboozles the mulleted jock with the phone call bit.
Yeah.
The
Rick,
unibrow guy. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, this guy over here, which again is sort of like dry paint in terms of charm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rusty too.
Adam, I was surprised to hear that he was your favorite Rusty.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Adam hates Anthony Michael Hall.
Okay, well, that's-
The dream sequence where he's with the some like it hot, but some sweat and the heat is on when he's wearing the white leather jacket is awesome. It's basically everything I think about. So there's like women in like leopard print leotards, I believe, flying at him. Yeah, it's great shit, man.
I mean, I think that like the director here, who's also the writer,
Fred Decker, yeah.
Fred Decker, he's got to be influenced, right, by the John Hughes movies that are coming out right now. He's got to feel like, I need that wisecracking sidekick in my movie. He gets this guy.
The Anthony Michael Hall character, basically.
Like Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah, the poor man's Anthony Michael Hall. And regardless of not if he had a real disability, what the decision was made to like make this character disabled.
It was just they wanted to do it and have it be normal.
Well, they needed a reason for the guy who's funnier and more attractive to not get laid.
Not
basically.
get the girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, and that's like where I'm kind of like torn.
Because he could have given an STD to every girl in the sorority house.
Because it feels like they're like, okay, he's this is kind of like pro people with disabilities, and we're not going to talk about it. But then he has some dialogue, which is so, I'd imagine, insulting, where he tells...
I'm never going to get laid.
So ableist.
Yeah.
I'm doing all this work for you. I actually thought that was probably the best, like, real scene of the movie. Where he's telling him, what I've done for you is to make you happy, and you're not happy, and you have everything. And it was actually, like, pretty eloquently put.
Yeah.
And so if you're not happy, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And how am I supposed to feel? And again, my God, to have a line that says, I'm sure as hell never gonna get laid. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I heard that and I was like, fuck this guy. I mean,
And then he dies. So he's right.
And he dies.
So he was right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The somewhat saving grace about this character is he is the only character that gets infected and is still able to fight and communicate and like basically save the movie. I mean, save the heroes.
Yeah.
Because he conveys the information. Everybody else, from the Japanese custodian to Brad, immediately infected.
The sorority girl who picks up the cat, she was infected
she
before.
Takes a little bit.
Yeah.
But she's
Also,
not communicating
Detective
the ways
Cameron,
to kill them.
He kind of does too, because he's like shuffling off towards the cemetery at the end.
Yeah,
right?
but
So
I
he's
don't
I
kinda
don't
like
think the
getting away
rules
from
were
people.
very well
Adam-
established and then held.
I would have thought the bomb killed him before the leeches.
Or what
right?
you would think, but then he's coming out charred and bittered.
Yeah, I don't even remember that scene.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that either.
that was cut.
We have not, surprisingly, talked about the detective.
Yeah.
And it bears a lot of discussion.
Well, and this is like, he's Adam, my guy.
He's my guy.
This is fucking Deal from Rockford.
This
Yeah,
fucking Rockford.
he's my guy.
Yeah.
No, Tom Atkins is the best. It's really, I was not expecting to get really weird hard-boiled detective story in here at all. Like, that's not, that was not on my bingo card.
They had to throw another genre in.
No, you're right.
He's like reading Raymond Chandler novels, and he's got like a bottle of whiskey that's like either knocked over or he's drinking out of at all times.
And just bypasses his own suicide to go out and fight these slugs one last time.
I would say that he has probably the worst hiding spot, so to speak, for a shotgun I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
It's
just open on at the foot of the
like
bed
right
where you
there.
can see everything. Yeah.
Laying at the bed, but like the sheet of that bed is about 6 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you are going to trip and fucking blow your foot off. Going to get a glass of water
Or kill a neighbor.
Considering how like pickled that guy is at all times, like he has a wake up drink, right? I mean,
this is his favorite movie that he's been in.
That's what he said. Yeah.
He had like 9 bad dialogue lines for every one good one, but he sold them all consistently.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
He's
just leaning into the pulp, you know?
The good news, your dates are here. Bad news, they're dead. Great line.
Great
So
line.
good.
Great line.
Also, thrill me every time anyone either calls him or is, like, that's awesome. That's it. If you can have a catchphrase that's as good as thrill me.
Yeah.
But yeah, every other like kind of hokey, like, hey, just say something and we'll go with it. He still delivered it with 100% conviction.
Which is no surprise to Adam and I who watch Rockford all the time.
No, he's new to me. He's new to me because like I don't have Rockford tattooed on my body like you guys do.
I mean, he's
On my team.
Notable character actor. I feel like I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Tom Atkins is definitely.
He literally smoked so much in this movie. I was shocked he was still alive in real life.
Yeah, and this is way before they were smoking the fake cigarettes on. Yeah, this is actual cigarettes.
Yeah, and these are long shoot dates with a lot. Like these days are long because
he's smoking 15 cigarettes a day at least.
It's practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lot of setup. It's gore. It's makeup. Like, he is just going to be going through packs and packs a day. But yeah, I mean, he was like a bad B-movie convention of this. I liked having his backstory, too. Of him showing up early as the Zodiac cop.
Yeah.
You know, and then...
Yeah.
What I did find weird was his vendetta to kill the axe-wielding murderer zombie. He does that, sees a bunch of slugs skitter off into the night.
Doesn't think anything of it.
Doesn't think anything of that. Still feels comfortable enough to go home, put on some light jazz, and start the oven.
Tape up the fucking door.
To bosh out, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to completely Sylvia Plath it to some, I would say royalty-free jazz, by the way.
Sure,
Most
yeah.
likely.
Yeah, he wasn't blasting Dexter Gordon.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd never seen this movie, but this is a movie that, and like when Leon was talking earlier about like, did this hold up? Is this kind of what you expected? Like, this is exactly what they set out to make.
Yes.
Like, this movie is what they wanted to do, and they did it.
Success.
This is a successful intention of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's some things about that intent that you could question, right? Like, did it appeal to an audience in 1986? That's unclear. But
well, I got some notes about that in my background. But Adam, you have your segment, I believe.
Yeah, I do. So my segment is real simple. It's just let's remember some creature features, particularly from the 80s, because I feel like it's a genre that was really fun. That had a lot.
I feel
of
like you're
films
doing
from back in the
let's
day.
remember some guys, but
basically, but let's talk about Critters. Let's talk about Gremlins.
Sure.
Like, and if you compare this movie to those
or
movies,
Ghoulies,
or I mean, really, we talked about some of these already. So creature movies still kind of exist, right? But I feel like for the most part, they are
not like this.
They're remakes. They're not that original. There's
or they're just Godzilla movies.
Another Godzilla movie, a remake of Troll. You know, it's like another Jurassic World coming out. I guess there was Lake Placid. That was a thing. But
Lake Placid was straight up 25 years ago.
And they still are making more Lake Placid movies. But they just stopped making those. And I guess it like lands in that budget zone where it's
you know what happened?
What happened?
Tom Cruise killed them with The Mummy.
Yeah.
Universal was doing the whole dark was it Dark Universe?
Dark Universe.
Yeah, what they were calling it. And The Mummy fucking bombed. It bombed so fucking hard. It lost so much money. And for a Tom Cruise movie to bomb, something really went wrong.
But that was only like 6 years ago.
Oh, I know, but like they were pouring so much like development money into all of this shit, and then when The Mummy bombed, and they thought they had a surefire thing because it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But when The Mummy bombed, it was like, okay, well, we're shuttering that, and it never got back on track.
But you had movies like Slither, right? You had movies like Slither from 15 years ago.
Yeah, which owes to this.
You have Eight-Legged Freaks. You do have some movies that are creature features, as Adam put it, but they did not have the kind of regularity of being in the Metroplex like every other week that they did in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I missed that. It was really fun. Like, Critters is a movie I would sit down and watch right now if it was on.
I watched that the other day.
I don't expect it to be good, but I would enjoy watching it, I'm sure.
Tremors.
Yeah, Tremors. Oh, like I'm looking at a list. It's
awesome.
like, oh man, they made so many Tremors movies. Tremors was fucking awesome.
Yeah, Tremors was great. I mean, all those movies had the same elements. Because I remember, I love The Blob. The remake of The Blob in 80, I think that was 87. Might have been 88.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. I think it's 88, but...
I think it was 88, and then, like, The Thing in 82.
Sure. Yeah. The Thing's fucking great.
The Thing is great.
Yeah, like, I still watch that to this day.
Sure.
You know, I'll watch that. Even if it's not on, I'll go out, search for it, because...
Yeah, I've definitely watched it in the last, like, couple years.
Yeah. I think I just watched it, like, the last few months. That and the remake, because I'll watch a prequel. Sometimes I'll watch that first, and then I'll watch, the Thing or whatever. But
Sean and I had to watch the fucking Thing from Outer Space from 52 or whatever.
Is it that early?
Oh yeah,
wow.
In the 50s. But that the original that we had to watch that in that fucking sci-fi class. Tom Pope
was Leslie Nielsen in that, or somebody like that.
Leslie Nielsen was in Forbidden Planet.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was a great era. Then you had Leprechaun, and like how that could go in so many different directions that were wildly
Space.
unexpected.
The Hood.
Oh, man.
So what happened, Adam? What happened to
Well, Josh's theory is that the Mummy killed it. I mean, I think that just Hollywood
it was dead long before the Mummy.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
They were pouring like a ton of fucking energy back into the creature feature, and the Mummy killed the what should have been the creature feature renaissance.
Well, I mean, I think it just kind of Hollywood demanding sure things is what killed it, So if you don't have a built-in, you already have the tie-in marketing for it, they're not going to make it. And
But they were going to do Wolfman. They were going to do fucking
awesome.
Blue Lagoon, or not Blue Lagoon. Black Lagoon. Blue Lagoon also. In Blue Lagoon, it was going to be Christopher Atkins' dong was the creature.
Oh, yeah, but that's about it, because it really made me think about those. And I had to judge this movie against those, and I just wonder if, we'll get to that and its failings, but I wonder if part of the reason why this...
If it had chosen Elaine?
Yeah, if part of the reason this movie wasn't a success is I think that the creatures didn't stand out the way that some of those other creatures did. You look at Gremlins, and those are iconic creatures, right?
But Slither straight up ripped this off. I don't think James Gunn would say he didn't.
Yeah. No,
But it felt like that movie still felt like
that was a more unified vision.
Early 90s. Yeah, it had that feeling of it. And I think it's so much harder to do that stuff now because so many people I don't want to see any of that old shit. I want new stuff, and the studios are like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this." And it's like, well, I don't know, it's still got a place. Yeah. I think it's still got a place, those creature features, especially in the 90s when it was just movie after movie after movie after movie with creatures in it.
It seems like now you get your Halloween movies that come out, but they have to be just the scariest movie ever. It's just Saw 25, blah blah.
But really, we want Halloween 3: Season of the Witch with Tom Atkins.
Yeah, that would be fucking badass. Yeah. Frankenfish, I want to see that again.
Never saw Frankenfish. I've never even seen a trailer for it.
I will say that horror is probably going to be one of the only genres where you're going to get the new ideas because of the potential for box office returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, you have your franchises like you talked about, you have your Screams.
They'll keep going back to that and fucking Halloween forever.
And your Halloweens. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that it's only a matter of time before Friday the 13th and Nightmare comes back. But
you mean Friday the 13th comes back again?
Yeah, again. But I think you do get a couple new ideas like Skinamarink this year and When Evil Lurks. And even Talk to Me or... They do...
I still haven't seen it, but I know
they do well. People still like to go to the theater and get scared.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And they're willing to trade A-list actors.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing writing.
Yeah, I mean, look at how big It Follows was, and it didn't have fucking anyone in it.
Had nobody in that. Yeah. Or Blair Witch, for Christ's sake.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Probably the biggest return on initial investment. I think it was, $30,000 they spent on that movie?
Completely unwatchable if you're not in the theater, too.
But if you are...
If you're in the theater, holy shit, it works.
Yeah. It worked.
Yeah. So, for the film's background... Despite the rumor that Fred Dekker wrote this in a week, he wrote it in 3, insisting he be able to direct the film when his agent shopped it. His roommate at the time, Shane Black.
Hello.
Yep. Who he met at UCLA and was Dekker's roommate. Also did some uncredited work on this script. They immediately went on to write another cult classic, The Monster Squad, which Dekker also directed.
Yeah.
They also co-wrote The Predator in 2018.
I'm going to call it right now that Shane Black wrote, "Good news, your dates are here."
Absolutely.
They're dead.
Yes. That line's also in Monster Squad, isn't it?
That has to be another episode. I have not seen that in
very long
I think
time.
that was the line that
years.
was used in both, but I could be wrong.
It's a great line.
Now, the surnames of the main characters belong to famous horror and sci-fi directors like George A. Romero, David Cronenberg, John Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, Sam Raimi, and James Cameron. The university is named after New World Pictures producer-director extraordinaire Roger Corman. Mm-hmm. There were reshoots after test screenings returned the larger note that there wasn't enough action. The toolshed sequence was one of the scenes added in additional photography. There's a Fred Dekker interview that I will link in the show notes. The studio felt there were pacing issues, sending in an exec to oversee an edit without Decker's involvement. He let most of their cuts go without a fight because he was a first-time director. As mentioned before, there were 2 endings. The theatrical version closed with Cynthia bending down toward the dog, which opens his mouth, and out jumps a slug. Decker's original ending is the one with a charred zombie of Detective Cameron shuffling down the street, collapsing with slugs scurrying out of him to the cemetery where the alien ship flies in. This was released on August 22nd, 1986, grossing $591,366 across 70 screens. Though in some cities it was released as Homecoming Night. Per Decker, someone at the studio thought he was too big for his britches, and they didn't even release it in Los Angeles. Which is kind of fucked up. So basically the studio buried it.
Yeah, that's a big city.
Yeah, big hit job. So that's really why it didn't find an audience, probably. Yeah. Someone at the studio was just like, fuck this guy. Yeah. So given its $6 million budget, which is about $16.8 million a day, it didn't do well, making back just 10% of its budget in theatrical release, though, again, it was only released on 70 screens. Standard at the time would have been over 1,000 at least.
So weird, too, because it's such a California movie.
Yeah, but, you get one fucking dickhead exec who decides they want to bury the movie and whatever.
He only made $600,000.
He also, Decker didn't like shooting master shots and basically got into it. I think it was actually on Monster Squad, but he did a lot where he was like, okay, we don't need a master here. I know what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so when the producer came in for Monster Squad, he was like, what the fuck are you doing? And basically almost shit-canned him. Anyway.
I mean, I could see that, like, a couple times where masters would have been good in a movie like this.
Sure. Uh-huh.
I mean, even the edit, there were a couple scenes that were just really, really Bush League. Mm-hmm. There's actually a scene when Cynthia is talking to her boyfriend at the opening frat party. Uh-huh. Did you guys catch this? Where they just fade, but they don't fade in time to, like, clip out that she's still talking.
I didn't notice that.
So there's a scene basically where she goes to Brad because, he's being a dick. Mm-hmm. Go figure. His name's Brad.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love Brad. Brad was fantastic.
What was his license plate?
You mean Bubba from Mama's Family?
He was so good.
I mean Bradster, according to the vanity plates. Uh-huh. But yeah, she has a scene where she's talking to him and they just dim and they fade the audio, but she's still talking. I love that. Great clip.
Just step on her line.
The first scene in the present day, it's like a crane shot coming in with like a big group outside. And I got to tell you, it was like halfway through the scene before I could figure out who was actually talking, which
right.
Not great stuff.
What could you also see? Was that the shot where the second AD is in the background, making sure that people are? There is a shot in the movie where the second AD is keeping crowd controlling. Basically, yeah.
Nice. I feel like there had to have been an AD that was going around trying to get more 45-year-old cops to be college, frat guys.
Because they all look old as fuck.
I mean, that's the thing, right? That's the thing just in cinema where...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have people who look a lot older. And
Sleepaway Camp, every camper is either 10 or 30.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
But that's the thing also outside of film, right? Like in society, you see somebody nowadays who is, 25, and they look like they're like 11 to me.
Mm-hmm. Part of it's just growing old, man.
Yeah, sure. I know. There's part of that.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of that.
So this had a Rotten Tomatoes score of 73, but it's almost all reviews from film nerd sites. So again, it was only released on 70 screens and under 2 different names.
Yeah, I don't even get the chance to shit on Gene Siskel right now, which I feel
like... apparently...
Though I would love to. Fuck you, Gene Siskel.
So they sabotage this movie by not releasing it in LA. They have 2 different titles for the movie and apparently 2 different endings for the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the director's cut ending only came about once it got a Blu-ray release, I believe. Or maybe it was DVD, but it was
and that's the graveyard one.
Yes.
That's the one that we all saw. Yeah. Okay. The one that's on, for people who want to watch, that is on, just search archive.org and Night of the Creeps.
Yeah, and I also, spoilers, I don't want to give away the ending here, but I was not quite sure what that meant.
Yeah. Well, it was very open for interpretation.
I don't think you're meant to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like the aliens were coming back to like clean up their mess and take away the last of their experiment, but we don't really know.
Yeah, 25 years later.
It makes about as much sense as like a local police station having a flamethrower in the back.
Well, they just have those.
That you can check out.
Have you not been to a police station, Sean? Those are there. Those are there in the armory at
I feel
any
like
police
such
station.
an idiot.
Yeah, that's a whole thing, man. That's how they get their
Yeah.
tanks. It's like, it's like a whole
Yeah.
program with the military.
So you can
It's
get
effed
a
up,
like
man.
1945 D-Day raid,
a trench cleaning flamethrower. Yeah.
a trench cleaner, a Nazi incinerating flamethrower from, by the way, the guy who runs the gun store in Terminator.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Dick Miller. Yeah.
He's so great.
And also the dad in
Yeah,
Gremlins.
exactly.
Yeah.
This is one of 6 times that he's played the character named Walt Paisley.
Really? Huh.
Yep.
Oh boy.
6 random movies. Most of them are Corman pictures, but yeah, he's played Walt Paisley in 6 movies. So I guess moving past the sort of segments, going to picking up the scraps. Does anybody have anything that you feel like we kind of missed that we haven't talked about before we get to gripes, fixes, and saving graces?
I don't.
I'm not really. I think we've covered a lot. Yeah, I do have a little bit of gripes, and certainly some saving graces.
I would like to note that this film is clearly brought to you by Miller High Life and Pepsi.
Seriously, there was a lot of Miller placement in this.
A lot of Miller High Life. If they even say it's Miller time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a like a complete non sequitur after shooting a zombie, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I believe so, yes.
yeah, which I couldn't get the correlation of that. But
I wish they had done like a "Can I get a light" joke before they did the "It's Miller time."
Shane Black was off that day.
Yeah, he wasn't upset. He's not even credited, but also David Paymer is one of at least 3 Academy Award nominees that worked on this film.
Yeah.
Wow.
Charles Gordon was Academy Award nominated for producing Field of Dreams.
Okay.
And Barry Dvorak, who Adam and I have talked about
Yeah.
on Munch My Benson, he did the score for this, and he did the score for Bless These Children. What the fuck's it called? It's the movie that the theme song was then reused in Young and the Restless. So he wrote the Young and the Restless theme.
Nice. I can unequivocally say that I would rather watch this movie than Field of Dreams.
Paymer is the only actor, though, right? Is
Yeah.
the only Academy Award nominee
To my knowledge.
That we know of. Yeah.
from this movie.
I mean, I think Blake Lively's older brother might have been also.
Man, that family. Wow,
No way.
a lot of acting talent in that.
I didn't realize it was a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Teen Witch.
Well, yeah, Teen Witch, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And
one of the other Livelies has a small part in this. I couldn't catch who she was, but one of the sorority girls, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, Striper rules.
Oh, in the bathroom?
Yeah, in the bathroom. I thought that was super funny because if you don't know who Striper were, they were a Christian fucking metal band, like a hair metal band. So I thought that was very funny. But the makeup artist, Kyle Ray Tucci at the time, she was dating the Striper frontman Michael Sweet, who she later married. So that was like an in-joke that the makeup artist was dating the frontman from Striper,
Nice.
Christian hair metal band.
Christian hair metal. Wow.
They were something,
So that's a genre
That is a
that's gone
genre.
away. Yeah.
That is a genre.
thankfully.
Well, Christian hair metal is like what? All right.
I did also think it was a little weird that he kept calling them Little Rascals names.
Oh, they got alfalfa.
Well, that can get into one of those gripes. Like, it is a little too referential, right? Like,
Okay.
like it kind of leans on those jokes, right? Like the Little Rascals joke.
Sure,
and it
sure.
doesn't. I can see having a problem with it not really standing on its own legs if you're not kind of already tuned into some of those jokes. Like,
Sure.
I might appreciate it more because, like, oh, he's reading a Raymond Chandler novel, so he's like
Right,
a
right.
joke about a hard-boiled detective, and that's what we're supposed to laugh about. Or, they're watching Plan 9 from Outer Space, so it's like a cheesy sci-fi flick scene right now. I don't know. I think that might be one of, well, it sounds like Fred Decker's office politics might be the biggest problem with what happened when this film was released, but that might be another problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Josh, you may have been with me when he said this, but Terry Gilliam once said that you have to put
I've never seen Terry Gilliam speak, so I was not there.
So a screening of Brazil a million years ago, Terry Gilliam said that you put little things into movies to kind of get yourself out of bed each day because directing a movie is such a oppressive...
It's a slog.
Slog, yeah. And so he puts these little jokes inside his movies, and Decker went crazy with that for this. There are so many references that I think Decker is doing.
He's probably worried that he was never going to get to make another movie again, so he's got to get them all.
Well, he almost didn't. He made like one other movie, really, right?
No, RoboCop 3.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huge film.
How did we forget that?
Yeah, how do we forget RoboCop 3?
RoboCop 3, that had a weird thing with the studio going bankrupt.
Okay.
Right as it was supposed to hit the theaters. So, like, money sort of dried up as they were in post. So.
Yeah. So, bad luck.
Maybe it would have worked out on it. Probably not. I haven't seen it. But it's got, who's RoboCop, right?
No, I don't remember.
Robert John Burke.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, because Peter Weller was just the first two, right?
Yep.
And they switched. I don't remember RoboCop 3.
I haven't seen it.
I think I watched it, but I don't remember it at all.
Did you have any gripes with this movie, Leo? Like one?
I think rewatching it, I wish it was just more of a story.
Yeah.
And less of just a cut and paste sort of like, okay, now it's going to be this movie. Yeah.
Like when I watched it as a kid or whatever, I'm like, oh, it was, slugs and shit or whatever. But watching it now as an adult and you like understanding like movies and structure and all that, you're like, oh, I kind of wish it was, because then you get the first beginning when the whatever drops from the ship and the slugs are in there, but then that's it. There's no explanation. There's nothing after that. So I kind of wish there was like,
and them coming back at the end doesn't answer anything.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you come back 27 years later? It was 59 and it was like 86.
Yeah.
And we don't even really see the slugs in that first scene. Like, we see there's something in that jar that he's like tapping at, but we don't see what it is.
I mean, I think that's sort of endemic to the creature feature is the sort of hiding it a little bit for, you don't want to see the monster in the first scene.
Well,
yeah. I mean, that was the only thing for me. Like, I just wish it was more fleshed out. In the sense of I just wanted more. Yeah. Like, just as an adult, not watching it. Because before, you watch it's kind of like quick or whatever. But I wish it was like a sequel or something. Because both scenes at the end set it up for a sequel.
Either way you went, whichever ending it was.
Yeah, either way, it was like, oh, there could be more. But, that was it. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to get a sequel or anything.
Sure.
Especially after the information you just told me about him, like all the movies he's done, he's pretty much been shut out of Hollywood, and this movie only made less.
He did Monster Squad, which definitely had a bigger. Yeah. It didn't do much theatrically, but it did very well, in home.
That's definitely cult classic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
and that was one like
people remember that.
All of us were aware of Monster Squad, right, Sean? I mean, I remember that from back in the day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wolfman has Nards or whatever.
Wolfman has Nards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie, but I didn't know this movie made less than $600,000. And it was a $6.8 million budget, because I'm looking at the prosthetics and all the stuff they had.
Just the film stock, I mean, that's like, you could make a movie like this today, just, don't pay anybody
half the price
and use a digital camera, and it'd be like way, way cheaper.
Sure.
Yeah. $600,000.
Yeah, it's rough.
So I see why he didn't get any more jobs.
I wonder how much of that $600,000 is like, could this movie have broken $1 million? Probably pretty easily.
Easily.
Oh, if it had a real release and they had done it.
I mean, it was in 70 theaters.
That's crazy.
And it did 600,000.
Do we have any numbers on VHS?
No, but I'm sure it actually got a fair chunk of basically they buried in then VHS and cable. I'm sure it got most of the money back.
Yeah, that's probably why they played it all the time.
Mostly from Leon.
Yeah, exactly.
I just kept going to the video store. Hey, you got Night of the Creeps? Yeah, we have it right
But I
here.
mean,
sir.
back then a VHS copy for rentals
Like
was
$100,
like $120.
Yeah, that's what I
So
thought.
like, it doesn't take much to actually start to see
Some exec for this movie, the studio exec, is like, okay, it's a complete wash, but if this one family in St. Louis keeps renting this one, boys, we might break even.
They just keep watching this movie over and over.
I don't
again.
get it. Why don't they buy it?
They got all the records. All the times I went to the store to
So,
get
Leon, how do you fix this movie for a modern audience?
Oh,
I have some ideas.
how to fix it?
We can come back to it too. Just like one fix.
Yeah, one fix. One way you'd tart it up to make it work in 2024.
Maybe make it a little longer.
Yeah,
because it's only like
it's short.
It's an hour and a half, but it's so stacked.
They're jamming in so much.
Yeah.
It's like a peak episode of SVU where they're just like burning through plot. Because it's like, oh no, now it's this thing, now it's that thing, now it's this other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be one thing. I mean, I still enjoyed it though, so. But yeah, you guys.
Yeah, I think I would make the monsters more charismatic, like put a little more into them, because you think about
the Lothario slugs.
We just something like make them more the star, right? As opposed to the zombies that they turn people into, because again, it's like jumping.
Like they could do a dance like the California Raisins or something.
Dude, we watched a California Raisins episode the other day. It's really good. It holds up. It's so good.
Right on. But I watched the California Raisins inspired episode of Moonlighting very recently.
Nice.
Also very good.
Nice. But yeah, I would make them cuter. I might ditch the slugs idea and go with something else. But I think that's part of the problem this movie had, is that the monsters are not that memorable. Because it's like, are they zombies or are they slugs? And so it's like,
right.
I don't know.
Right.
And the other thing I would do is, like Leon said earlier, I would actually give it a real plot where it's not just like, we're just jumping between references that I think are funny. Like, you could still have those in there, but maybe adjust the balance. Like, move that down a little bit and have a story that we care about a little bit more. Because the romance is not really bringing the heat, as it were.
No, not between those two.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more chemistry between the roommates, right? And there's certainly more chemistry between JC and Cynthia.
Right. JC's got chemistry with everybody in that movie.
And we see more of Cynthia than Chris does.
We sure
Which
do.
is fine. I'm down. I'm okay with that. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the nudity stuff just feels so strange because
it's so superfluous.
Yeah, well, we start on a naked back, and then she turns towards us while putting the shirt on.
I mean, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you think about it, it's not like... It's not gratuitous in the...
I did not remember that, though.
And the idea that they're, like, naked for no reason. Like, I'm trying to think of a movie where there's
Adam,
just, like...
they're bathing.
Yeah, exactly. But there's, like, you used to have that kind of
there's
film
a
where
reason.
Like, there's, like, a naked girl, like, running through the frat house, right? Like, that used to be a trope kind of thing. It's not like that. Yeah, they're bathing, they're changing. It's just, we don't see that nudity anymore, right? Like... Nudity nowadays has to move the plot forward somehow,
or has to be really funny.
Right.
Has to be a big comedic scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Jennifer Lawrence on the beach and
or Jason Segel, right?
Yeah.
Like
has to,
the modern dong-a-sance is like based
or Barry Keoghan in Saltburn,
or like in Gemstones.
Because we're just worried about the viral.
Or every episode of Gemstones.
Yeah, every dong in Gemstones.
Yeah.
I don't know who likes dongs more, if it's Jody Hill or McBride or David Gordon Green. One of those guys loves dongs.
Yeah.
I think that's all their series, though.
Oh, yeah. And it's
Jody
amazing
Hill stuff.
every time.
Yeah. It's always good. It's just really like, it's a dong.
Again, I think like my gripes are a little too much inside baseball with this director's
references.
The plot could be much cleaner. I mean, there would have been a really cool opportunity for the aliens to kind of like communicate with JC and Chris, right?
Yeah, right.
Or the detective before he went. If we had kind of a Predator 2 situation, where Danny Glover is meeting the Predators, and there's this
training in Bill
understanding.
Paxton.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of have a little bit of closure, and there's a little bit of respect of like, you guys have passed and this, that, and the other thing. But we don't get any of that, and we're sort of left with this real fatalistic, like, are these slugs going to run the globe? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, once they hit that cemetery, like...
Maybe they have, Sean.
It's true. It's possible.
That's true.
Because this was a documentary.
There were a couple, like, iffy, like, little conventions about, like, say, how easy it is to sneak into, like, a cryogenic lab. How easy it is to sneak into your boiler room at your college. Like,
why is the cryogenically frozen man wearing a codpiece? What's that for?
Yeah. I mean, definitely wasn't the Dongassance in 1986.
Yeah. I wanted a real Eastern Promises.
Yeah, I mean, even Piano is 93.
Yeah. But I wanted an Eastern Promises fight scene with his dong just flapping around.
Against young, sexy David Paymer.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Said he just gets the neck snap. Yeah, I mean, there's little things, but
so how would you fix it, Sean?
I mean, definitely bump up the cast, put A-listers in here.
How would you fix it for $6 million budget, or the equivalent today, 16.8?
I don't really think you need to fix it. I think like you could put this movie out, you could do this style of movie, and it. Probably was going to work.
I mean, Scream is kind of this, right? Or not Scream, or like I'm thinking of those like whatever the Scream parody movies.
Scary Movie.
You know, yeah, exactly. Scary movie. There you go.
Movie.
Yeah. You know, that's kind of this. It's just a little more over the top and dumber.
I think this is played straighter than Scary
This
movie.
movie, it's just like there's a little integrity to it because it knows what it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't betray you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what you're getting with this movie. It's going to be camp. It's going to be gory. You're going to get some freakouts. You're going to get some screams. You're going to get some TNA. You're going to get some crass language. Like, you could still do it today, and it would be a body R-rated kind of horror sci-fi thing of the summer. Like, you could totally do this kind of movie still.
Yeah.
So I think my major gripe is kind of that it's trying to be a couple too many things, a few too many things.
There's a lot of things in the pot. Yeah.
And I think it could pare down to 3 or 4 things and work a lot better instead of like being a pastiche that jumps from one to the other, kind of revisit the, revisit the, I mean, I guess it revisits the like, yeah, it's the college thing. Yeah, it's the hardboiled detective thing, but it kind of jumps around a little bit otherwise. And
you wouldn't need, say, for example, the time displacement stuff. You wouldn't. No. You could put this in 86, start it in 86, and end it in 86.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we don't see any of the main characters until, I mean, aside from the young version of Cameron, we don't see any main character until the like 10:30 mark.
Yeah, but I mean, aside from the, the suicide pact to find this killer, like, you could have Cameron come in here and still, like, be kind of shitty to his fellow detectives, still kind of be patronizing to the college kids.
He doesn't need a backstory. Like
he does not need a backstory.
Well, he can even have the backstory, but, like, he could have told it in a 30-second montage instead of, like, the entire setup of, like, Lookout Point and all that.
He kills the axe murderer in the alley, right?
Yeah.
He goes back. Chris goes to tell him he's got information, and he tells him, like, it's done. I did what I did because that guy 30 years ago killed. Like, there you go, Josh. Like, you're right. You could do that in a minute, cover your bases, and then he could say, well, I got this tape. My roommate, he's dead. Let's get that really conveniently placed shotgun and fuck some shit up.
With that shotgun, I did really love it when Chris tells her, here, hold this. The 12 gauge, you'll feel better. I loved that.
She really took a shine and adapted well to that flamethrower. I mean, I imagine that's a pretty tricky piece of machinery.
Sure. I bet she had to do some serious training with that. I guess I haven't thought back to whether or not she's actually shooting it off. I honestly can't
think this
remember.
movie passes the Bechdel test. Because I know at least in one scene, she's talking to some of the other sorority members about the brains.
The brains. Yeah, it does pass the Bechdel test, yeah.
That's a rarity for a 1986
For an
film.
80s movie?
Set in a sorority. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, two women absolutely have a conversation with each other about something that isn't just boys.
But it's super
empty. It's brains in the basement.
I mean, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of, cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. But it's super ambitious.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is.
I wish it had a sequel. Like, honestly, I think that was one thing where it could be, like you said, like the two endings, it could go either way.
Would it all be Chris and Cynthia boning?
Well, maybe like a different story. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like a different... Because, all right, if it ends with the dog or if it ends with the aliens, going to the graveyard, it could just be another story of it happening again.
Sure.
But, like, maybe they focus more on the aliens as opposed to the zombie part. Because that's pretty much what it turned into.
I think the sequel probably would be the epidemic has spread and they need the aliens' help.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And so they have to kind of figure out a way to contact these pink bastards.
These weird naked aliens.
Small.
And get them ungreased and have them come on down. And still try to figure out a way to communicate with them with their subtitled language.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that could be fun. I don't see it happening, but you never know.
I think they just fell to the slave of the times because zombie movies were big.
Yeah.
In the 80s too. They were like, hey, well, let's have the slugs turn to people into zombies. And they were like, okay, that sounds good. And then that was it. There was no rhyme or reason, anything like that.
Right.
The only time you get an explanation is when he talks in the end when he has to record and say, they lay eggs in your brain and blah, blah, blah. But that was it. There's nothing else about the slugs, that you get any kind of explanation.
Sure.
Because it starts off strong with the aliens and like, why are they getting rid of this waste? They throw it off the ship, but
if they were just getting rid of the waste, why is he being hunted, right? Like it felt like beginning of Star Wars where they had C-3PO and R2-D2 running around trying to get that information out of there. Like he had something.
But we don't know what, and we don't know why, and we don't know anything.
We don't know anything. Yeah.
Okay, so the saving graces, starting with Leon. What's your favorite part of the film? Your favorite moment or element or whatever? If you want to think about it, I can go to somebody else.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Come back to me. I want to think about it.
I mean, for me, I like JC. I like the detective. Mm-hmm. I feel like you get exactly what you signed up for with a movie like this. Mm-hmm. Probably from the box cover to the description on the back. Yeah, it's honest. This is not your kind of movie. I totally get that. Like, this is not going to be some people's, boat.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something campy and fun and a little schlocky, like this absolutely checks the boxes. Mm-hmm. And I think like that for me is a saving grace.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like delivers on its promise, which is it's going to be ridiculous and silly.
Buckle up.
Yeah, I love the detective. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love the dog. The dog is great and like just really takes over the movie once the dog shows up. I wish they kind of dropped in the dog earlier, have like Chekhov's dog, like meet the dog when we first go to 1986 and then have the dog deliver at the end. That would have been great. And fucking Todd, the Toddster. Love him. Love that they cast a guy who clearly is not blonde, and we're like, no, we need to bleach his hair to give him the real look.
Or Brad?
Brad. I'm sorry, Brad.
Yeah.
He's
Bubba from Mama's Family.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
You have a favorite part yet, Leo?
I think the detective story was like one of my favorites, and it's like all the one-liners.
Sure.
Just because like it was just entertaining. Because everything else you kind of like expected just because of what it was.
He's literally on his way to a murder scene and stops and smells the roses.
That's all him too. That was his choice. Yeah, that was an Atkins special. I thought he was fucking great. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
For me, he's the highlight.
Mm-hmm.
This movie would really suffer without a character like that.
Yeah. You could recast Jason Lively and probably improve it, but
that'd be nice.
Atkins, he was like the heart of this.
Lively did have that moment where she came to the door that I thought was really funny.
I mean,
I think he really landed that, like, where he's super nervous. He's like, hi. And I think that whole thing landed.
But I think that's easy. I think you can replace him.
But I think it's sort of the role is written that way too, where he's really having to play everything very straight to JC being the funny man.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't have killed off JC so early.
They absolutely should not have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to fix the movie, I think that's you don't kill him until way.
Yeah, I mean, you could have put him down in the brain basement. Like, he could be, like, in trouble. Like, you think he's dead.
He could be puppeteering all the brains. It'd be like the "Daddy, would you like some sausage" scene in Freddy Got Fingered, where he's just like, it'd be awesome.
I love that movie. Literally, I went to the theater to see that.
I saw twice. Tom Green at the Studio City Ralph's, the one right by Universal. I saw him there at least once, maybe twice.
You see what it was in his cart?
No, it was in the fruit section though.
Sandwich.
So it was produce and shit. Yeah. Anyway, we all covered it, right?
I think we did this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So before we say goodbye to listeners at home, Leon, where can listeners find you on social media?
Well, I'm also a photographer, and I have an Instagram. It's Leon Jr. Photo. Or at Leon Jr. Photo. I do stand up. I'm Afros and Yarmulkes on Instagram. I am not Jewish, but just to clear that up with everyone.
Not of the Rod Carew tribe? Sammy Davis Jr.?
Lenny Kravitz.
Sammy Davis
Lenny
Jr.
Kravitz, yeah.
You know, distant.
Sure. Yeah.
Distant. Very distant. I don't get any of that royalty.
Okay, that sucks. So. You should probably write to that.
Right.
Now, as I touched on last week, there's a slew of films on the list you submitted that we'd love to revisit with you. So I'd imagine you'll be back soon.
Oh, man, I would love it.
Oh, yeah. But thanks for subjecting your fond childhood memories to the possibility that they would be ruined on the Unkind Rewind.
we see some suggestions that have, like, certainly a high likelihood that they'll come up again. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody is going to put up Night of the Creeps. Yeah, I really don't.
No, I mean, we kind of had to jump at it. Mm-hmm. Like, we had no idea what the fuck this movie was.
No.
Yeah, and I was surprised, man. For some reason, I thought it was more popular.
But, I mean, that's really kind of some of what is funny about this is
Leon.
Is,
it was
is the,
really
like,
popular.
Growing up on an island.
It was really popular in a home in St. Louis. Okay, very popular. You were in a bubble, my man. This did not exist to me.
Nor to me.
That is correct. That is very true. That's very true. Because I think every time I say that, they're like, what movie?
Well, thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks again for coming on, Leon.
No, thanks for having me, guys. This was awesome. I'm going to try to spread the Night of the Creeps as much as I can. Yeah. Let the world know.
Proselytize.
Yeah.
You've just listened to another installment of the Unkind Rewind podcast, mining and potentially ruining your childhood for content, one film at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcast production and can be ingested wherever you listen to podcasts and on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcio Suave. Rate and review Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Yelp, IMDb, Consumer Reports, Google Reviews, and TripAdvisor. Links to all of our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as at Unkind Rewind Pod on nearly every social media platform that makes sense. If you had a question, concern, complaint, or positive feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com or you can join the lively Muchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of the Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue with the pod may just make it into the next week's ep, so chat away. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to another Unkind Rewind.